Hey everybody, it's Kathy Levin from Nutritiously Simple. I'm glad that you guys are here to join me today. I'm going to wait a few minutes for people to get in here a little bit. This is your opportunity to ask questions. We're going to do the three recipes today in kind of a mini version. So just so you know too, so every week I'm going to put 3 more recipes in, and then by the end of the 6 weeks you'll have a whole menu plan for an entire week with different meals. I feel like the people in the group, we're all different cooking levels. I've heard from a lot of people that maybe this is even your first time cooking. You're not a pro in the kitchen, which is fine. And even if you are a pro in the kitchen, this is an easy way to make things during the week. So let me start with the easiest, in my opinion, thing to make. So the very first thing I'm going to show you is everybody likes a little sweet treat. And I always want to encourage fruits and vegetables. So an easy way to get like a dessert in would be to use a recipe that calls for the raspberries with the chocolate, the dark chocolate chip in it. So you get a little chocolate, right? And you get your fruit in there. So it's an easy way. You could do this as a snack. It's about, I believe, 1/4 cup is what the serving is. So that's an easy, real easy way to be able to get that in. We're just going to stuff it right on in there. So that's your recipe for the chocolate stuffed raspberry. I think probably anybody, including your kids, have your kids help you do it. They might enjoy it. It's an easy way to try to get them to have a little fruit in there too. Well, I'll try to make sure to always have something that you can do as a snack. Probably it won't always be as easy as this one, but it's an easy way to do it again. So, and when you're done, you've got that little portion size of raspberries and chocolate chips. So, kind of get that out of the way. So the main dish that we have this week is a chicken breast. It's a sheet pan recipe. I'm just going to pick all that up. It's a sheet pan recipe with vegetables and chicken breast, but you could really use whatever your favorite protein is, and that's what we're going to kind of look at. I'll be right back. Okay, so this I kind of started ahead a little bit. I'll put that right there. You can see I got started with the chicken part of it. So the recipe called for carrots. You could use whole carrots like it calls for, but I'm always about saving time, and so I got a bag of baby carrots and just use those. Then I don't have to worry about chopping them up and things like that. It also called for sugar snap peas, but when I went to the grocery store before the snowstorm, they didn't have sugar snap peas at the county market. I live in Sherman, so it's a little bit smaller. They didn't have sugar snap peas, so I'm using green beans instead. And again, use the vegetables that are a favorite in your family. So the last vegetable that's going to go on there is broccoli. So we're going to cut a little broccoli up. Again, if you have any questions, whether it's about the Fit Carb Challenge or what we're making this week, go ahead and put those in the comments. Even if it's after this is live, I will go back. It helps sometimes if you tag me, Kathy Levin, in there. So, but just kind of chop it up so it's bite-sized pieces. I would include the stalks too. I mean, it's not like there's plenty of nutrition in those as well. All right. So we're just going to cut them up into pieces about that big. You could also use frozen if you wanted. I would just, if you're going to use frozen, I would probably rinse it off so it's defrosted a little bit before you put it on the plate or on the sheet pan. All right. So you get the general idea there, right? Just kind of cutting up the stalks as well. I think it's important that we use all of it so we're not wasting and things like that. So let's talk about the protein for a minute. So the recipe called for chicken, but you could use shrimp. I even thought you could even use salmon would be amazing. You could use turkey, whatever the protein is that you like. Now me, I'm a plant-based eater, so I use plant-based protein. So one thing I'm going to do today is I'm going to share with you tempeh, because that's what I'm going to use. I made a smaller sheet pan for myself, because in my family we have people that eat meat and people that don't eat meat. So I'm going to show you how to use that as well. So I'm going to stop there with those. Hold on one second. Okay, so tempeh, somewhere, there it is. So tempeh is what it is essentially, is it's soybeans that have been chopped up, fermented, and pushed into like a cake or a block, if you will. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to open it up. The packaging can look like this. So this I got in Springfield, this I got at Trader Joe's. So it just depends, but they look like a block like that. Sometimes depending on how it's made, it may have some little black specks and things like that on it. That's still okay. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this open. So tempeh can be sliced, but it also can be crumbled. So you can use it in place of meat. So maybe one of your health goals is a lot of you said that you wanted to eat more healthfully. So maybe try a meatless meal once or twice a week. You don't have to necessarily use tempeh. You could use things like beans. You could use tofu. You could use some of the different meat analogs or substitutes that are out there, like veggie burgers and things like that. So for mine, so this is what it looks like. Can you see that up close? Mine, I'm just going to slice some pieces of tempeh, and it just slices really easily. They even sell, like at Hy-Vee, they sell tempeh bacon in that special foods area. So I'm just going to slice some of that so I get some protein too, along with everybody else. All right. Just going to do mine like that. Okay. So overall, we're done. I'll go back and finish up the rest of my veggies later. Hold on one second. Okay. So the next part that we're going to do, let me pull up my recipe. So you're going to put then the dressing or the marinade over the top. You'll pour that over it when it's done. So what it has in it is, it calls for cocoa aminos. You could use Bragg's aminos. The Bragg's aminos are actually a soy base, almost like a soy sauce. It's a little bit saltier. So we're going to use cocoa aminos in this one. So the recipe calls for, let's see, 2 tablespoons of the cocoa aminos. And then 2, I believe it's tablespoons, yes. 2 tablespoons of sesame oil, or if you don't have sesame oil, you could use olive oil. Another thing you could use to replace the oil entirely, and I use this a lot in recipes, is aquafaba, which is the liquid off of chickpeas. So I use that a lot instead of oil, but this time I'm going to use a little bit of oil. You could even cut back the oil a teeny bit. I think I'm only going to use like a tablespoon and a half. So. Then we're going to do the juice of 1 orange. Do we have anybody on? Anybody have any questions? Can you tell me the questions?
How much water per day is recommended?
Oh, that's a great question. So about 6 to 8 8-ounce glasses, and it depends on you, right? So if you're feeling dry, if your mouth is dry, if you're thirsty, that means you need a little bit more water. So that's how much water you need in a day. How about any other questions?
Going back to the raspberries, what if you don't like raspberries?
Ah, that's a great question. If you don't like raspberries, do you like strawberries? Do you like blueberries? Oh, I see what you're saying, to put I would use a strawberry before, obviously. Or maybe that's not your snack, right? All right. Any other questions? All right. If you have questions, put them in the box, and we'll try to answer them as we go along. So this is a juicer, right? So you just cut that in half and kind of squeeze it, and it pulls all that juice out. And it's really good for people like me who have tiny hands, who can't squeeze things. So I already preheated the oven to 375 for this. So it's kind of going to town. I would also, another thing you could do is take the outside and use a zester and put a little bit of the orange zest in there. Because of those volatile oils that are in there, it makes it taste yummy just as well. A 1/4 cup of honey. So there's my little honey bear guy. And I'm going to do the cheater's way. I don't measure a lot in reality, but please measure when you're making the recipe. I have a general sense. There we go. So, 1/4 cup of honey. Where are we? And then it calls for 8 garlic cloves minced, okay? So here is my secret to that, right? So I'm not a giant fan, again, of spending extra time in the kitchen. I get the garlic that's already minced in the water. Super easy to use. So let's say I'm going to put a couple tablespoons of garlic in. And that'll be equal to those 8 cloves. And then we're going to do a little ginger. So fresh ginger. Does anybody ever use fresh ginger? I love fresh ginger. The ends off of it, and then you can peel it. You can actually use a peeler if you want, and let me go grab one out of the drawer. So you can peel it like this if you want. You can use a knife to peel it, whatever works for you. The peeler works very easily. And we only need about 2, I believe it's 2 tablespoons, so we need a little bit more than I thought. So I'm just gonna peel it. When I use ginger in smoothies, I just throw it in there with the peel and all, because it'll just blend it up in my blender. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of slice it, and then we'll chop it up a little bit. You could use powdered ginger. You're not gonna have quite the same flavor out of it. Flip all the skin onto me. That'll be great. Any other questions, Miss Hannah? All right. So we're just going to kind of peel it. All right. Ginger's very good for things like decreasing inflammation. Sometimes I'll use that. I'll throw a little bit of that and turmeric in things, like kind of as an anti-inflammatory thing. So if you have any problems with inflammation, you have diabetes, heart disease, ginger's in there, and then we're going to put a little, then we're just going to stir that up, I believe, right? Yep. Okay. So I'm going to take a whisk just to kind of stir it all up. So it's just going to look like that. It might have some little clumps from our garlic and our ginger, and that's okay. Then we're just going to drizzle it over the top. And a little bit over the chicken too. And put some on the tempeh. All right. And then we're going to bake it. And then after we bake it, and it's baked, till the chicken is fully cooked. So sometimes you might want to use a meat thermometer and make sure that it's at least at the temperature of, I think, I don't want to tell you something wrong. So here's the hold on, where is it? Chicken's like, I think, 165. So make sure the internal temperature is 165 when you cook it. and that there's no juices running out of it that are pink, then you know you're good. The tempeh is not something you have to worry about in terms of being fully cooked because it's a soybean and it's already processed in the way. Now tempeh, the other cool thing about it is tempeh is, because it's fermented, it has prebiotics and probiotics. Excuse me. And so it's actually really good for your gut health as well. So once this is done, we're going to put it in the bowl, or we're going to put it in there, and then we're going to take this out of the pan and we'll sprinkle it with the chia and sesame seeds just as a topping. So that's pretty much how you put that together. It's very, very simple. The thing that I just want to kind of recap on this is you could change the protein and have it be a protein you like. So you could use salmon, you could use shrimp, you could use chicken, you could use turkey, or you could use something that's plant-based as well. I even thought about, instead of the tempeh, using edamame, which is soybeans, so that might be an option as well. You could use whatever vegetables you want to use. It's all the same base. Just make sure when you, on your sheet pan, that you put a little parchment paper down first so that it doesn't stick to the pan when you're done cooking. So I'm going to scoot that out of the way over here. Okay. Then the next thing we're going to do, and I don't know how to do this without, here, come around over the top, how about it? We're going to make the mushroom and quinoa. So quinoa is a whole grain, it's an ancient grain. I already have the quinoa cooking. So what I did was I cooked it inside of my rice cooker. You can cook it just like you do rice. So right now my quinoa is cooking. I started that a little bit ago. It's not all the way done yet. So quinoa, before it's cooked, whoops, that's my chia, not my quinoa. It looks like little round, tiny, you can kind of see it in my hand. Now when it's done, it almost looks like it has little squiggly arms to it. Once it's cooked, there's many different varieties. It comes in different colors. It's a great whole grain. It also is a complete protein, so that you can get all the essential amino acids in quinoa. It's great to pair it though with a little protein as well. So we're going to let that finish cooking, and while we do that, I'm going to show you how I'm going to saute the mushrooms without using any oil. So let me go grab a pan real quick, and I'm going to turn this up. My burner all the way up. All right. So most of us are used to using oil to saute in, but part of the program that I'm in addition to it being plant-based, the Ornish program that's a partnership of Fit Club and Prairie Cardiovascular, it's a heart disease reversal program, and part of what it is it's whole food plant-based, but it's also low oil, and so I've gotten used to cooking without oil. This is probably the first time I used oil in a recipe in a long time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use vegetable broth instead. So I will show you how I do that. Let me just check real quick my ingredients so I make sure I use the right amount. Okay. So we're just going to we already got the quinoa going. Then step 2 says, while the quinoa is cooking, saute the sliced mushrooms in the vegetable broth until soft, then add the garlic and cook for another couple minutes. So that's what we're going to do. I want to make sure my pan is good and hot before we get started. It's warming up. Okay. So what we'll use, you can get vegetable stock at the grocery store. It's in the same place where you would find beef stock or chicken stock. So I'm just going to put in about 1/4 cup. And sometimes when you use stock, you may have to, as you are cooking, you may have to add more if you notice it starting to stick to the pan. So let's just kind of get that going. Hope you all survived the Snowmageddon. Do we have any other questions yet? No? This doesn't seem like it's getting warm. It's getting there. Okay. So then I'm going to put the mushrooms in. So the recipe calls for about 2 cups of mushrooms. So I, again, use the simpler way, and I got them already cut up. They'll shrink a little bit, and this is about 2 cups right there. so we're going to go ahead and put those in there and let those start to saute. Okay. And then we'll, again, for this recipe, it calls for minced garlic, which you can mince yourself if you want to, or you can use my easier way and get the minced garlic that's in water. So once that starts going, then what you'll do is you'll simply put like a tablespoon or so of garlic, right? And then at the end, what you're going to do is end up combining the quinoa with the mushrooms and just kind of stirring that together in a bowl. You can add a little bit of salt and pepper to taste. If you're somebody who's sodium sensitive or you're trying to watch your sodium intake because you have high blood pressure, then by all means you could leave the salt part out. Another thing that you could use when you're cooking the quinoa, it calls for water. If you want it to be a little bit more flavorful, you could use the vegetable stock instead of water to cook the quinoa into. So let me real quick check and see what our quinoa looks like. Oh, it's pretty good. Here, Hanny, I'm gonna come over. So this is what it looks like when it's finished. It cooks up quite a bit because we put a cup in dry, and this is what it looks like now. So once the mushrooms are cooked, all you're going to do is stir it up with the quinoa. All you'll do is mix your mushrooms with the quinoa, just stir it together, and then you have a complete meal, right? Because you've got your protein and vegetables in your sheet pan. You've got a little bit more veg with your and a whole grain, and then you've got a fruit with your raspberries and the chocolate. So I hope that helps you get your recipes ready. If you have questions about the recipes or anything else, feel free to leave me a comment in the comment section, even if you're watching this on replay. That helps too. Just let me know. I hope you guys have a great day and stay warm and out of that darn snow. See you later. Bye-bye.